Welcome to the RT channel. This video we're working on our concrete front porch slab. Now for our concrete front porch, we actually mixed our own concrete and poured it, and we did it a little differently than you probably normally would see it. Instead of working in a corner and working our way out, we actually worked from the bottom and worked our way all the way to the top. That way we had a uniform surface to work with on the completion so we could get a nice finish on this. So I didn't really record setting up the forms. I did a lot of that setup in the first video where I showed the foundations being poured. So we basically continued that with this video. So for the forms, I used 3 2x4s, and 2 of those on the sides were cut to length, and then the front plate that goes across the front, that one we left as a whole form so I could put these form stakes into the ground next to them and hold it all in place. So what I did is I stretched out the string where it needed to go, and then I put the forms on the edge of it. Then I got everything screwed together with the forms, and to hold the forms into place and level, I ended up putting these form stakes in and then screwed the forms to the form stakes. Now the form stakes went on the outside of the forms in kind of a normal interval, about every 3 feet, so that the forms wouldn't bow out on us, so that the forms would stay in place, and also for I could keep level as well. Now I scooped a little bit of the gravel against the forms to make sure I wasn't going to get any bleeding out of the concrete underneath. We didn't want any blowouts. That wasn't going to be good, so I made sure the inside as well, the gravel inside, was beaten down with a tamper, and that it was all nice and level, and had about the same thickness through the whole thing. Wasn't super strict on the thickness, but I did want to get it pretty close and at least get enough concrete, if not just a little bit more. So once I had the forms in, I also bent down the rebar that I had coming out of the foundations. And basically that needed to be bent down into the slab itself so it would all support the slab and keep it from moving. Something else I did to keep it from moving was add some rebar dowels into the existing foundation. Now I went ahead and epoxied those in. So what I did is I hammer drilled out the holes. Then I cleaned out those holes with a plastic brush. Here we go. There you go. See all that dust that came out? That's what we wanted to get. And if you can, it's best to vacuum it out or suck it out or blow it out. Probably blowing it out's really the best. After I got it cleaned out, I went ahead and added the epoxy in. Then I beat the rebar in on top of that epoxy. All right. Just gonna drive this in. Ouch. So once I got all that prep done, it was about 10 o'clock in the morning after I got the 2x4s forms laid out and the epoxy and everything all done. I was able to start working on the concrete. Now for the concrete, we did the quick mix bags of concrete, the 5,000 PSI kind. Our concrete mixer was an electric mixer, and it could hold 2 bags of 60-pound concrete. Now for our concrete mix, even though I got the 5,000 PSI concrete, I did go ahead and add a flat shovel scoop full of Portland cement to this concrete mix. So what we did is, I think after we got into it, we decided it was best to put a little bit of water into the mixer first, then add 2 bags of concrete and the Portland cement to the mix, and then we would add the rest of the water. Now the first time we did the water, what we did is we kept track of how much water we actually poured into it. Now it ended up being where we just used the 1 bucket full for us, and that was a laundry detergent bucket that was empty. I have no clue how many gallons it was. It's probably about 2 to 3 gallons. But it ended up probably being about 2 to 3 gallons in for the mix, and that got us out to the right mixture that I was looking for. So we were able to use that bucket to figure out how much water we needed in. Ended up adding a little bit more from the first one. The first one was a little dry and didn't work quite well. You'll know it when you start working with it. You want it to flow to the edges and you want it to actually fill in the space, but you don't want it to be like super soupy. There's that nice medium to work with, and once you get it there, it just, it works super easy, and you'll know when you get to it. So once you get the right amount of water measured, you want to keep track of that and add that to each of your concrete mixes every time. So we mix our concrete up and get it to where it's nice and mixed up. We're paying attention to make sure that the concrete's not getting stuck to certain parts of the mixer. Then we pour it out into the form and work our way up, basically. So we spread it all across the bottom using a rock rake. And I used a little bit of the flat plate tamper as well to kind of flatten out the concrete. And that worked really well to get everything spread out. Once we got about a layer of concrete in at the bottom across the whole thing, I added the rebar on top of that. And it was actually cheaper for us to buy straight rebar pieces. These were 1/2 inch rebar. And we placed those across the, basically in a square every 2 feet. Once we got it up to the top of the forms, what we ended up doing was taking a clean 2x4 and screeding the top. And screeding basically means we're just taking that 2x4 and scraping across the top. You'll do it as like a saw action to kind of keep the concrete to flatten down and to spread it out. We do that a couple times, fill in any gaps that you might have missed. Once you get that, you kind of need to let it set up for a little bit before you start really magging it. So we used a bull float to level this thing off the final amount and smooth it out. And with the bull float, you can really see any spot that you got that's out of whack. What that does is it's going to force the gravel down out of the surface and bring up the cream of the concrete.
Just keep going back and forth until you kind of smooth it all out.
Okay.
See how there's a dark spot in the middle there?
Right.
You need to keep working it. I mean, you could put a little pressure down too if you want. And the flatter you keep that, the more you're going to pull it back.
Oh, okay. So you don't want it to be.
You don't want to dig in, but you want it to.
Right. So the real challenging part of concrete is when you're going to finish it. Because concrete needs a little bit of setup time, that's really the hardest thing to figure out is when do I need to get back on the concrete to mag it? When do I need to get back on it to steel trowel it? And when do I need to get back on it to brush it if I want a brush finish? If you want a real smooth finish, you'll steel trowel the finish. Now this being outside, we wanted a brush finish to give us some texture in case it does ice or anything or get wet, and we don't want to slip on it and fall. That's not a great idea. So what we did is we ended up bull floating this first, and then we came in with our mag trowels and mag troweled it, and what that does is it just keeps bringing up more of that concrete cream and getting us a nice hard surface to work with. So really what you're looking for when you're letting this thing set up before you mag trowel it and before you like bull float it is you want it to become kind of glossy. Once it gets to that glossy point, usually it's about time to start working on it for the first time. Once you start working on it, it'll actually kind of revert it back to a not ready mode, but that gives you a first round of bringing up that cream and stuff.
Just get these ridges out. Just trying to stir it up real good.
Oh, yeah. Still too green?
Yeah, I think if we try to broom it, it's going to be really rough.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
I'm going to mag it again. And that usually helps it start setting up more. Once it lets it reach, it's rough.
Oh, that
has more opportunity to get to the air, get to more of it.
Right. You kind of keep letting it set up until you get to the point where you can brush it, and then you do a brush finish on it. And you'll kind of want to do it in a uniform pattern so you can get it just right. Now the brush finish is more of a trial and error thing. I think we brushed it once and then decided it was a little too wet or too green for us to actually brush it without putting like really extreme grooves in it. Yeah, it doesn't look bad.
You want to do this?
Yeah, I can. Stick it out there and let it on its own weight, right?
Just let the weight of it take care of it.
How much are you overlapping?
Just, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's time to do this because we're about ready to lose it.
Can I go right over that bolt?
I don't know. Yeah, that's good. Now these are a little squirrely here, so you might want to come back and hit that again.
One thing we did do that I didn't mention earlier is we set up the sides with an edger. We edged the sides of the boards, and that gives us a rounded over edge so it doesn't actually crack, because if it's got a real sharp corner, that corner will want to break off. Now we did that one pretty early on, and we just kind of kept working it as we worked the mag trowels and stuff. But we got it all brushed, we let it sit up then, and that once you get it brushed, you basically don't want to touch it after that point. Pulled off the forms, and this is what it looked like. The epoxy, and you're distracting me, dog. Holes, and then I drove my rebar into the holes so that they grab onto the concrete. What are you doing? Get off me. They're gonna hear you breathing on my video. Mixed in this slab we actually use the really I'm getting attacked. I know. Sit down. Lay down. Lay down. Off of me. Thank you. Not an armrest. Penetration into your concrete, and you don't want it to rust out your rebar. I need to delete all these.